My name is Francisco Rivas Palayo. My disease is on the plague. My flesh and my heart will fail, but God is the strength of my heart and my portion forever. Mm. Signs and symptoms of the plague: severe fever in 24 hours with shaking chills, develop nodes that grow up with pus and are warm, and sometimes a crust, severe headaches, weakness and fatigue, vomiting of blood is very common. Abdominal pain accompanied by nausea is also a common symptom, and bleeding under skin is a very easy sign of the plague. Causative agent. The cause of the plague is bacterium called Yersinia pestis. This is a zoonotic bacterium typically found in rodents and the fleas they carry. The plague is rod-shaped and gram-negative, or bacillus. It can be transferred to humans through flea bites, contact with infected animals, and inhaling droplets from animals or people who are infected with the pneumonia version of the plague. Pathogenesis of the plague. Transmission happens mostly from bites and fleas of those who are infected with the Yersinia pestis bacterium, or inhalation of droplets from an animal with a plague of the pneumonic version of the plague. The bacteria travel through the lymphatic system and to the nearest lymph node, where they simply multiply, and this causes bubo. This is a painful swelling of the node. Septicemic plague is when the bacteria enters the bloodstream, causing systemic infection and sometimes sepsis. If the bacteria reaches the lungs, then the plague will be able to transfer through droplets and cause pneumonic plague. Without antibiotics, the plague can run rampant and become septicemic and pneumonic. The plague is dangerous because if a person does not receive any antibiotics, then they will die no matter how healthy you are or how strong you are. Epidemiology. The plague is usually not transferred person to person in the common case of the plague, which is like around 80 to 85% of all the plague findings. The septicemic plague occurs when the plague enters the wound or the bacteria progresses to a point where it enters the bloodstream, and that is not directly contagious unless also gotten from a wound from another person. Pneumonic plague is the only form of the plague that spreads person to person through droplets. This is a form of the plague that is highly fatal without proper treatment, aka antibiotics. Some risk factors for getting the plague are contact with wildlife, traveling to hot spots of bacteria in the world. Some place like Madagascar is a very hot spot. Sleeping outside and protected without a tent. Some occupations like veterinarians and wildlife biologists and hunters are more at risk of getting this disease because they're in contact with wild animals more often. To prevent getting the plague, people can call animal control when near an animal that is not in their natural habitat. People can also just not travel to hot spots. And lastly, reducing the number of rodents near your house can drastically improve you not getting the plague. Treatment and prevention of this bacterium and disease. The CDC and other federal agencies have worked closely to prevent an outbreak of the plague, whether it is intentional, like biological attacks, or by accident, like an increase in rodents. The CDC has informed hospitals of how to properly prevent infection of the plague. The plague is also very treatable with commonly available antibiotics. However, patients are already very sick with a pneumonic plague. Patients who are already sick with a pneumonic plague and have put off treatment will not only possibly not make a full recovery, but it will endanger everyone around them, even staff in hospitals could be put under observation to ensure that nobody else is further infected. Treatment and prevention. This is including Christian worldview. Isolation of the infected to prevent infection is one of the easiest and most important ways to prevent infections. The Bible enforces this. This is the oldest. Bible enforces this statement by stating, "He shall live alone. His dwelling shall be outside of the camp." This is one of the oldest recordings of isolation because of an infection, and it's from the Bible. Treatment for bacterial infections like the plague in modern-day medicine includes antibiotics and keeping the patient clean. The Bible enforces these ideas by providing a man with oil, which is an antimicrobial wine, which is an antiseptic, and bandaging the wound, which is the treatment for the person. It was stated, "He went and bound up his wounds, pouring oil and wine." Lastly, these are my references. I got references from government sites like the CDC, which is Centers for Disease Control and Prevention, and the WHO, which is World Health Organization, and more CDC. And I also got a reference from the English Standard Version of the Bible. Thank you.